Explorers, it's Justin again. I'm joining you today from my local mall. It's all because I've been following this one story online recently. First, I saw a video about how cheap fashion is harming the planet. A few people liked it, but then it turned into something bigger. Someone in Bangladesh shared a post about the unsafe conditions in the factory where they work. Someone in Canada shared a video showing how waste from clothing factories is polluting their water and harming nearby communities. And all of a sudden, that one video became a global threat. Not just about fashion or the environment, but about human rights. Human rights are the basic freedoms and protections that belong to every person, everywhere, simply because they are human. And here's the twist. Globalization can both protect human rights and put them at risk. And that's what we're exploring today. Human rights, what they are, why they matter, and how globalization can help protect them or threaten them. Let's get into it. To start us off, why do you think we even need to talk about human rights? Well, history gives us plenty of reasons. You've already learned about genocide, colonization, forced migration, refugee crises, and autocratic governments in earlier units. It's clear, we can't always assume people will be treated fairly or that our rights will be protected. And when those rights are ignored or taken away, that's called a human rights violation. A human rights violation happens when someone is denied the basic protections they're supposed to have, whether by a government, a company, or another person. Human rights became a global topic after the horrors of World War II, when leaders from around the world realized that if we don't agree on the basic rights every human should have, there's no way to protect those rights, especially across different cultures and countries. What do you think might be challenging about agreeing on a global set of human rights? Well, human rights are considered universal because they're meant to protect everyone, everywhere. But not all cultures or governments agree on the same values, so it can be hard to agree on what those rights should include or how to enforce them. However, in 1948, the United Nations managed to come to a consensus and adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or UDHR. The full list is in your guided notes. It includes 30 articles such as the right to freedom of thought, speech and religion, education, and protection from torture or unfair imprisonment. Today, most countries in the world have agreed to the UDHR, even if not all of them fully follow it. Now, someone needs to be watching to make sure businesses and governments are respecting these human rights, but the UN can't do it alone. Who else is protecting these rights? Well, the UN works through international organizations that focus on specific kinds of rights. One of them is the International Labor Organization, or the ILO. Which of the rights in the UDHR might the ILO protect? Take a look at the list in your guided notes. The ILO protects the rights of workers around the world. They fight against violations like child labor, forced labor, and unsafe or unfair working conditions. They also help governments create stronger labor laws and monitor how companies treat their workers. So, while the UN and UDHR set the standard for universal human rights, organizations like the ILO help put those standards into action. So what does globalization have to do with all this? Think about our example of the Arab Spring. We saw how young people in the Arab Spring used social media to protest injustice and demand some of these rights. Globalization helps spread awareness of human rights issues. Before the internet, governments could often get away with silencing protests or mistreating people without anyone knowing. But now, a single video from a protest can go global in minutes and put pressure on leaders to change. Still, that same global system can also cause problems. Let's say a major clothing brand wants to keep prices low. They open a factory in a country with weak labor laws, pay workers the bare minimum, and skip safety inspections. Sound familiar? It should. We talked about this in our economic sustainability lesson. This violates the UDHR's guarantee of fair wages, safe working conditions, and the right to rest. The people making a t-shirt may not be earning enough to feed their families. In globalization, businesses often go where labor is cheapest, even if human rights are ignored. Here's another example: displacement, or the forced movement of people from their homes or land. As the world becomes more connected through global trade and global tourism, there's more demand for natural resources, land, and travel experiences. To meet that demand, international companies often expand into rural or indigenous areas, building mines to extract minerals for export or resorts to attract tourists from around the world. But in the process, the people who have lived on that land for generations are sometimes pushed out, without fair compensation or respect for their rights. These people might lose access to their homes, their cultures, and their way of life. Can you identify a right from the UDHR that's being violated in this scenario? Under the UDHR, every person has the right to property, to participate in cultural life, and to security in their own home. Globalization connects us, but it also creates huge imbalances in power, because the companies making the decisions are often far away from the people affected. Also, the people doing the hardest labor often benefit the least from the profits, and the communities most at risk are usually the ones with the fewest resources to fight back. This isn't just an idea in a school lesson. It's a real thing that does happen. So we'll take a closer look at one case where a human rights violation happened and how international organizations stepped in to protect the rights we've just talked about. Let's dig deeper into that story I saw about fast fashion, the industry of making cheap, trendy clothes fast. Do you remember learning about the Rana Plaza factory collapse? In parts of Bangladesh, factories making clothes for global brands have been linked to dangerous working conditions, low wages, excessive hours with little rest, and in some facilities, child labor. And to make room for some of these factories, entire communities have been displaced, losing their homes and farmland with little or no compensation. This violates the UDHR's guarantee of just and favorable working conditions, health and well-being, property, and education. Okay, but how are these violations a result of globalization? Violations like these happen when the global economy grows faster than the systems meant to protect people. Think about it. A brand in the US designs a shirt, a factory in Bangladesh makes it, and someone in Europe buys it online. But the person sewing that shirt might only make a few dollars a day and work in unsafe conditions to keep up with fast deadlines. So, who steps in to help? The International Labor Organization has been working with the Bangladeshi government, factory owners, and global brands to inspect factories, improve safety standards, promote fair labor laws, create systems for workers to report abuses, and push global brands to be honest about where their clothes are made and how their workers are treated. How does this case study show both the positive and negative effects of globalization on human rights? Well, this case study for sure shows the negative effects, like how global companies often take advantage of cheaper labor in countries with weaker protections, resulting in human rights violations. And the people most affected by these violations are often the ones who benefit the least from globalization. But it also shows the positive effects by revealing how international attention and organizations like the ILO can help improve working conditions and raise awareness of human rights issues. So now you've seen how one example of globalization shapes people's lives every day, for better or for worse. But what does this all really mean in the grand scheme of things? Let's zoom out for a second. Today, we broke down what human rights are, how the United Nations works to protect them, and how globalization can both spread and violate those rights. But here's the big takeaway. Globalization is powerful, but it's not neutral. It reflects the choices people make. Governments, companies, and even regular folks like us. But you don't have to be a world leader to make a difference. As a global citizen, the choices you make as a consumer matter. The stories you share or support on social media matter. And the way you learn, listen, and advocate for others matters. So next time you see a story online about injustice or buy something made across the world, pause and ask, whose rights are being protected and whose are being ignored? Because the first step in defending human rights is recognizing them. Great work tackling a tricky topic today, explorers. Next time, we'll take a look back at how globalization has evolved over time. Until then, keep exploring. See you next time.